It's still on the chip. We've got two things on the chip. Okay. Testing 1, 2, 3. Oh, well, 8. My mic just about flew off. Are you going to do any sort of intro?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Are you ready to roll?
I am ready to roll.
Okay. Here we go.
It's weird with all the cameras. I guess it's good. We're going to get used to it.
Okay. Ready?
Yep.
All right. Hey, just sitting down. Okay. I'm going to start over. Sorry about that. Here we are, sitting down for another episode. And I'm so excited about this one because we're going to take you all through our experience of stepping into the Grand Canyon, running out of water, and a special story that we just cannot wait to share. So you understand who Maswick is. But before we do that, I really want to give you an update of where we're at with our training. Some of you have been following us along that Dave and I are training for our first ultra run, the bogus 50K. And Dave's raised his hand in front of me, so...
That's always been our international signal that I have something to say.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So what Dave just did, he holds like a finger up, and I'm not really sure. It's not like a hand raise, but it's more like just a finger up in front of me.
Well, it was your signal. You're the one that designed it, so I'm just following.
All right.
rules.
All right. What's up?
Well, what did you do this weekend?
Right. That's what we want to talk about. By the way, before we dive into this weekend, we are. This is, gosh, Dave, in second season. This is our 6th episode in second season. To you, it's going to be episode 20, but we have been working on building a podcast studio, and we have tried and failed so many times on so many things, from everything from podcast curtains, sound blankets, acoustic foam ideas. We've gone over, above, and beyond of thinking through what an incredible podcast room would look like, and then also thinking through, like, what do we really need in the podcast room for y'all. So we will be back on video. We're hoping it is in the next episode. Dave and I are really working hard to get this done. We just had a lot of failures. We put a lot of things together. We were hoping it was going to work.
And the cameras are already hung with
the
care.
cameras are hung. Dave's been a phenomenal job miking us up and doing all the technical, all of the things that I've tried. We've just spent hours putting it together, and then it just didn't work. We looked at it and was like, no, it's just
it had
not
been
gonna
so
work.
easy if we had $1 million, right? We would have just hired somebody. But I think ultimately we ended up copying Eddie McRae's, Eddie and Sally McRae, but Eddie set it up, their podcast setup, because they were talking about the fact they had, an equally small room. Like, this is a 10 by 10 or 12 by 12 room.
We're in a very small room right now, and you'll see it when we get the video back on. But it's going to be great. So it's coming up. We're excited about it. So anyway.
And so you worked on that this weekend.
Worked on that this weekend. That was one of the things we did this weekend. Yes.
Yeah, one of a million things.
Yes.
But what was the highlight of the weekend?
Gosh.
You know I'm angling for something.
Yeah,
there.
well, I am, and I do just want to bring y'all up to date. We have been training for that 50K. We did our long run on Friday. We wanted to make sure we're off the trails for the weekend on the long run, because the trails over here get incredibly busy. So we were out there actually on the race course. We're on the race course doing like the last half of it. I think we put in like 4 hours of a good solid effort out there, came back and felt really good. That was a little bit different race. And there was still water in the creek. That was so cool. That's still this late in the season, and we're still having water in Dry Creek.
And hilariously, as we're running the return, someone's setting up flags for a trail run that was going to happen the next day.
Yes.
And, we're so busy sometimes we're not completely, but a lot out of touch with the local running community, because the Dirty Dog was over the weekend. And if we'd have known about it, they've only run it 8 years in a row, so it's hard to know about.
I wish we would have known about it.
But if we'd have known about it,
we would have signed up.
Yeah, I'd have used it as a training run.
Oh my gosh, but we didn't. We were literally coming off. We were still pretty far back there, and they were setting up these pink flags, and they said Dirty Dog, trail run. So anyway, next year it'll be good.
Next year, we'll be on top of it.
So that was our training. We're still doing great. We're following a plan. I actually am now kind of comparing my plans that I'm working with. So I do work with Training Peaks, and I purchased one of their 50K Ultra plans, which I think is coach is named Doug Edward. And then also I've worked a lot with Sally McRae on her playbook app called the Choose Strong. Highly recommend it if you are doing any sort of running and you want to incorporate strength training in there. She's got a lot in there, but she has a couple plans in there, and one of them is a 50K. So I'm kind of following along, matching her plan with the plan that I'm working on Training Peaks now that we have 13 weeks until race day and really 11 weeks of solid effort before we really start tapering. So I'm really excited. And then Dave's like, what's next? So I don't know yet. I know there's going to be what next. We have not created the what next. We're talking about still doing Grand Canyon, doing rim to rim to rim. That's been something that, starting from north and doing it what we did opposite. We've talked about maybe doing a different trail run that's not here in Idaho, traveling maybe to Utah, Arizona, or California. So I don't know. We haven't made a decision on that, Dave.
And then long range, I threw out a date and a location for 2026.
Yeah, we have that.
August, TMB, Tour de Mont Blanc. Like, that is on my bucket list of things to do. It always has been in one way, shape, or form. I just never had envisioned it as something I would do running. I always thought maybe hiking, or maybe they would just throw me on a burro or a donkey or something and tour me. But now I'm pretty excited. And if you haven't seen Billy Yang's 6 days of running video,
check it out.
Check it out. Yeah, the scenery is beautiful. It's very inspiring.
Yeah, that's a really cool video, and it does inspire you. And doing the training that we're doing right now will really help us complete that adventure. So I'm looking forward to that coming up, hopefully in 2025.
Nice. What else did you do this weekend?
So this weekend was really epic. I loved that I got to virtually support and participate in the once a year annual most prestigious race in the United States, the Western States 100-mile race from the Olympic Valley in Tahoe into Auburn, California.
And what really sucks about that is your dad lives in Forest Hill. And it's just our schedule didn't allow us to be there, but it would have been cool because we could have walked out his front door and been at that epic Forest Hill aid station.
Yeah.
And then gone to lunch, and then we could have driven down to Auburn and watched them finish.
Yeah. So those who of you are listening to this and you don't know what it is, so Western States is this huge ultra trail run who brings in the best of the best. There's a little under 400 runners that run the race. And this is a lottery to actually get a golden ticket to get into the race. We did hear a story from one lady who had applied like 9 years to the lotto and finally got selected. So, and then of course, there are qualifying races to get you into Western States 100 as well as sponsorships. So anyway, it was a really joy for us because we knew some people virtually that we've been following that have been our inspiration for running, and it was just cool to see their stories as they're moving along. Of course, Sally McRae has been one of our inspirations, so it was really fun to see her and her progress throughout the thing. But there was a couple of others too that I was really excited about that we've been following.
Yeah, there was a lot of amazing stuff that went on there, and if you're starting to think we're just nerds here because when you watch the Western States race, right? Like the winner did it in 14 hours. Jim Walmsley, I always mispronounce his name. It's not like the Kentucky Derby, right? It's not like you have a cocktail and the gun goes off and there's 2 minutes of excitement and then you go about your day. It was in the background all day long.
Yeah.
But we did have someone that we were rooting for that was going to podium.
Yes.
And a little bit of a heartbreaking story, and I think she should be our Ember Rising for this week.
Yeah, for sure.
You want to talk about that?
I do. And first of all, David had mentioned Forest Hill. So Forest Hill is kind of the halfway in the whole race of the 100 miles. It's at 62 mile mark. I think it's like 62 and a half or something mile mark, or 62.3 or something. That's the largest aid station. Everybody's there. And this is what everybody's shooting for, because once you get to the top of the mountain of Forest Hill, you are now heading down, down. There's still some ups and downs that you have to get through, but you're heading down into Auburn. So I just want to share that with you because David mentioned Forest Hill, and my dad actually lives in Forest Hill, so at the moment. But yeah, hopefully next year we'll get to be there and be there in person and support everybody. But one of the other athletes that we've been following that's been incredible has been, her name is Chen, Linchen, and they kept pronouncing it on the commentary, Chen Lin. I was just like, no, her name's Chen.
And I heard Chin Chin and
oh my gosh, I was driving me nuts.
And it's because she's virtually, especially for the Americans, she's an unknown, right? Like
She's an unknown,
where did
yeah.
she even come from?
Super strong, incredible runner. She has an incredible story. Sally McRae actually ended up running with her in part of one of the training that they kind of met up out there to do some training together. It was very interesting how they met because it wasn't like a planned thing. And the story goes that the coach and her were just driving alongside the road up in, I believe, somewhere in the Forest Hill area. Maybe they were doing a Michigan Bluffs trail, and they ended up, Sally ended up meeting, she didn't even know it was Chen, or who even Chen is, and then found out they ended up running together. But the story was just incredible. Chen's an incredible athlete. She actually was kind of in that top 5 the whole entire race, and she really kind of honed in on being in the top 3 women all the way into, I want to say, over 3/4 of the race. And I can't remember what aid station that she ended up having some medical that she had to deal with, something with her feet. And it just crushed my soul because I know she would have probably podiumed either 2nd or 3rd. She was just so incredibly fast and strong. Everything about her energy, just the way that she looked, the way that she was going. And I don't think she had much crew but her coach and maybe another family member or another coach that was there, but not a lot of crew was with her. But I was just crushed at that last aid station where I saw her for the last time sit down. They were working on her feet or ankle. We didn't know. And there's just nothing on media about what happened to Chen. And to hear this beautiful, young, incredible athlete soul just stopped in the tracks. And I just can't imagine how crushing it was for her yesterday. It just like you said, Dave, it was like an Embers Rising, she's just absolutely crushing it out there in every way. And then to have something like that happen, it does happen to us all, you're going for something so great and just have one little thing that just takes you down and you have to reset, that's just one of the problem solving, issues out there. But anyway, if you have a chance to follow Chen, Linchen, I know she has 2 Instagrams, one in Chinese and one in American. So she doesn't post a whole lot, in America, but there are some posts that her coaches, I think, has been posting. And I did reach out to her and let her know that we were cheering for her and hope that she's okay. So.
And we know she's never going to listen to the podcast. So
yes, exactly. Yeah, she doesn't know who we are.
There's a shout out for someone that will never listen. But
yes,
an Ember Rising is an Ember Rising.
Absolutely.
So check it out. All right, let's talk about Grand Canyon.
Yeah, let's dive in.
The day of, right? Our last episode was all about the prep and getting there. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the real deal.
Yeah, absolutely. If you haven't had a chance to listen to our preparing and planning for the Grand Canyon, check out the episode before this because there was a lot of great things that we shared. And there was a lot of thought going into preparing for this. And you see so many stories on YouTube and, whatever you watch, through any of the social channels or maybe a friend or someone that have done the Grand Canyon. And there's all sorts of stories of it being amazing. And then all sorts of stories being, it was horrible and I'll never go back and do it again. And it just depends on how you're thinking about attacking or doing the Grand Canyon because it is a once in a lifetime experience. It's not something you get to do every day unless you live up in Flagstaff and you get to, do it like Tommy Ribs where he's just owning that canyon all the time and training that canyon. But so we want to take you through our experience of things that went absolutely incredibly right and the things that we really wish that we would have done because there was a lot of things that were just like,
okay, 20 questions. What time did you wake up?
So we started our wake-up call at 3 a.m. Yeah, wake-up calls at 3 a.m.
And what's the first thing you did?
The first thing I did
unless it involves the bathroom, then nobody wants to know.
Yeah, the first thing I did is what I've always done, and what I'm still doing right now for our long runs. Because of the heat right now, we're having to get out locally at about 5:30 a.m. just because of the heat, and our long runs are in that, creeping up to 4 to 5 hours. So we really want to get off the trail by 10 or 11. But we knew it was going to be hot in the Grand Canyon, and the rim was 44, I think, degrees in the morning, and we knew that the bottom was going to be like 100. So we wanted to start as early as possible. So the first thing I did is still what I always do, 3 a.m., put the light on in the bathroom, and I start toe taping. That was the first thing I did.
Yeah. That first race this year destroyed your feet
It
for
did.
what seems like for months.
Months.
You've been working on it. So you've become a toe taping expert if you get blisters or issues with your feet and you want some expert advice. Wendy has now become like...
Yes, I've honed in.
A toe taping guru.
Yes, and I'm toe taping. I've studied it through Western states and just really reviewing how the pros are really toe taping. And if you really want to avoid the blisters, just really how to take care of your feet, because that's the most important thing when you're out there on the trail or doing these ultras. You really want to manage your foot care at a high level, like pamper your feet. Forget about pedicures, because you're going to give yourself your own pedicure and just manage your own feet the right way. So anyway, so 3 a.m. I was toe taping, and then that took about 30 minutes, and then it was fueling, trying to start, getting some fuel in before our shuttle pickup at 4:30.
Big bowl of oatmeal. That's what I remember. And it's super hard for me to eat like right out of bed. Yeah. But what's even harder than that is actually trying to move efficiently with a giant belly full of food. Right. So you need some time for that to digest. So we got that done pretty early. Our gear was completely prepared and laid out the night before. So packs and everything, water in the bladders, just stuffed in the refrigerator, ready to go. And so that was basically the drill for the morning.
Well, and then we stretched. I mean, we ate, and we were stretching now. And then after our stretching, it was like, hey, let's walk out to grab the shuttle.
Yeah, and that was amazing that the Grand Canyon has a shuttle that'll take you from anywhere to any of the trailheads. It was $15 for both of us.
I think it was, $15 for both of us. And by the way, that's something that they offer. You can just call up their taxi service. The best is just to call your concierge and or the front desk and just request and book the ride. Looks like they're doing it 24/7. So if you want to start at 2 a.m, someone will pick you up at 2 a.m.
And it was amazing. We called and said, how long is it going to be? And they said, it'll be like 6 minutes. We're like, we better hustle over because we were going to get picked up in front of Masswick Lodge instead of our place. And we jumped in the shuttle, and it was still dark, maybe 4:20-ish, I think.
There was a few other people in the shuttle.
There were already other people in the shuttle that were, I don't think any of them were first-timers. They were all experienced what was going on. And literally 15 minutes later, there we are at South Kaibab Trailhead with just the first light coming up.
It was still dark. I remember I had a headlamp. South Kaibab has restrooms, so it's kind of your last stop for the restrooms. And then it was like just kind of re-gearing, and Dave and I walked to the edge of the canyon, had a little spiritual prayer together, and made the first step in.
And so I don't describe things as being spiritual that often, but with just the immenseness of the canyon, you immediately feel super small. In fact, when we first saw it, a couple of days prior, knowing that you're going in, I was like, oh, hell no, I'm not. We got to rethink this thing. But stepping in was amazing. And you just all of a sudden are in it. And you realize, like, we're going to do this thing. You feel super small, but it's highly energized, right?
Yeah.
A ton of energy. And then, there's a lot of running community that comes out of the Flagstaff area. And I think within the first 5 minutes, some girl appeared, ran past us at like some incredible
Mach speed.
Yeah, incredible pace, just kicking up rocks. And she had no pack on, where's she going? But she obviously knew what she was doing. And then she was gone.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh, I'm a little humbled in another way.
Yeah. So, and I just want to say for sure, Dave and I were planning to run rim to rim. And so this is south rim to south rim. So South Kaibab Trail down to the bottom of the Colorado River and then back up Bright Angel. So all in all, that's like an 18, 19 mile trek. And this is without detours over to Phantom Ranch or anything else. So we didn't take Tonto Trail. Literally, it was just down around the river and back up. So when we first stepped in and we started down that trail, I just want to paint the picture for your listeners, because it was this beautiful red dirt trail. And it was still kind of dark all the way to like Uwa Point. If you remember, like that very first point that you come to. And I saw people, taking pictures. Somehow there's always people around taking pictures and doing things. And then right when we were kind of moving around these switchbacks, that's when like that first light you're talking about coming in, it was just hitting the canyon of these massive rock plateaus. And it was just lit up. And the rock plateaus are like this beautiful, incredible iron reds colors. I mean, just going off with the incredible sun. It was a clear day, obviously.
Yeah. In that first light, the colors really pop, and
yeah,
you see the first light like in the distance hitting the peaks, on the opposite side.
On north side, yeah.
We were fortunate enough there was a little bit of cloud cover, so as the sun started to come up, there was just all these reds and yellows and oranges. We ended up stopping a lot of times to take pictures and just soak it all in. So in between that, we ran.
And it was also like, we've never run it, and we were trying to navigate it. So when you're running a trail for the first time, it's like, I feel like I was on my mountain bike in a sense, like you're navigating where your feet are going, and there was a lot. This is what started the whole stair step for the mule trains. There was all of these timbers that were split apart in these large, 4 or 5 feet chunks, going down. And it was just a lot of down all the way. Big chunks down.
Next time I'll understand that it's like a stair stepper as opposed to a trail run, because you really got to watch your feet, but it does a number on your quads. So by the time we got to Cedar Point, you were already concerned about something that was going on with your toes.
Yes, and I want to talk about that. So the race that I had before was like 3 weeks before, and it was my first trail half marathon with a large elevation. I think it was like, what was it? For us was like 3,000 feet.
Yeah.
And that was just our first one. And I had totally torn my feet up on the way down. Obviously a newbie, inexperienced runner trying to figure out my shoes and socks and care of my feet. I didn't really put a lot of care into my feet. And that race completely tore my feet up. On one of my feet, I had one of my foot, my right foot, I actually had nerve damage on 2 of my toes and blackened toenails. So, to try to do a fast turnaround to heal my feet, knowing that we had Grand Canyon already booked, was a really crazy experience. So, yeah, I was able to do it, and I was able to get the right shoes, and I thought that I had the right socks, and I'd prepped everything. The toe taping that I thought that I was so great at was still new to me, because I was still new at toe taping. And I hadn't properly toe taped every single toe. I had just done the ones that were my troubled toes, thinking everything else was good. And unfortunately, I started getting blisters on new toes that I had not toe taped before. So I had padded my damaged nerve toes for this run for Grand Canyon, and padded some of the other toes, and I properly toe taped those. But the other ones, I just literally just like wrapped the KT tape around, and I thought we were good. And unfortunately, that was the wrong thing to do, and it's exactly where I got new blisters that I had never had in new places. And that just kind of set us off, because we were down at Cedar Ridge. We weren't that far down, and I was like, oh man, I already have a hot spot. I can't believe it.
So we fixed that up as best as we could.
We did. And I said, I told Dave, because I didn't know how far we were from the river. And I said, you know what? I'll just get down to the bottom. I'll take a look at it. Once we get like settled for our lunch, I'll take a look at it and deal with it. We did make an extra stop, and I did peel my shoe off. And I can't remember what point that was. There was a little rest kind of hut.
Yeah, that was Cedar.
Cedar? Was that Cedar?
Yeah.
So I did take my shoe off, and I did take a look at it. I'm like, oh, okay, it's not that bad. I did a couple of different things for it, and then thought that we were pretty good to go. But it just continued pestering me all the way down into the river, and it was still quite a long downhill, even through Skeleton Point, where the big switchbacks were. It goes down, pretty far, all the way down into the that North Rim suspension bridge.
Right, and so Skeleton Point was the section where I started realizing I hadn't prepped for all of the stair stepper down, right?
Your knees started hurting, didn't
Yeah,
they?
so my knee started hurting, and then I recognized that my gait, my cadence, I was leading with the same leg off of every step, and that had caused an imbalance, impact in my knee. So it was funny. My body mechanics didn't want to work the other way. I'm like, I want to lead with the other leg, at least alternately. And the mind is like, no, this is the way you're comfortable. So I did break out my poles there, and the bulk of my running for that trip was now behind me, because I had slowed down quite a bit. I was still jogging and moving along and enjoying it, but I was having also some pretty significant pain in my knee. And I was like, oh, this sucks, right? Like, you want to enjoy every moment of life, no matter what you're doing. And then something shows up. But that's the way it is. Nobody else's life is my life. And so I moved slower with the poles. And fortunately, once we got down, it was only a downhill thing where the pain was being applied to me.
I was just going to say, we had not practiced going downhill for 3 hours. We also, I knew that we were behind our time. I thought that it was going to take us about 2 hours, 2:30. And I knew once I saw, like 2:30 would be max, but when I saw we were over 2:40, I was like, ooh, we are behind almost like by 40 minutes. This should only take us 2 hours to get down. So I was a little bit shocked, and we were both in pain. My toe, your knee, oh my gosh. And it just is we had not rehearsed, practiced that steep of downhill. You're going down 5,000 feet to the bottom, and it just keeps going relentlessly. There's not a lot of flats.
Let's say that again. It just keeps going.
It just keeps going. You're like, oh, you can see the Colorado River, but you're still not there yet.
Yeah, and there are some spots that aren't as steep, right? But it's just relentless. Like, you just keep descending. But it was beautiful. We got incredible video out of all of that. And
well, I was just going to say, once we got down to the north suspension ridge, that was so cool to cross. It has a wooden planks that go over it for the mule train. They cannot see through the wooden planks on that bridge, so that they feel comfortable crossing that bridge, because the other Bright Angel suspension ridge is all metal, and it does not have any wood, so they do not take the mule train on that suspension bridge. I thought that was very interesting. I didn't know that. So, but the crossing the north rim of that to the north rim on that bridge was so cool, and I remember getting the video of you coming over for the first time. It was it was so cool.
It was cool. So, lessons learned from the descent. If I had to when I do it over again, I will definitely try and leave maybe a half an hour earlier, and maybe just take a light and start a little bit earlier in the dark. It was so nice and cool, and despite the thought that there's other people out there, we really only saw a handful of people, and they were doing their own thing, right? And so we had a couple fast movers that passed us from behind, and a couple people that were specifically wanting to go down and just watch the sunrise, so we passed them. But we were by ourselves quite a bit during that descent. Other lesson learned is I would probably be more focused on some of the stopping points and getting more video, because I was sort of caught up in the let's keep moving mindset. I wish I had spent more time taking video and just taking it all in.
I think Dave and I know we had planned and told our family, because it's always good when you're going to the canyon to make sure you tell somebody your timing and when you expect to get out. And so we had both told our family, this is the time we're going in, this is the time we're coming out. So we knew we had this window of time. And if we didn't come out, that was probably the time to check in with search and rescue, just to make sure we were okay or whatever we were doing. So that's why we kept moving, not quickly, but it was pretty quick. I mean, we were constantly moving. We didn't sit and just absorb the beauty of the canyon that we could have. And that would have been amazing, because it was. I mean, the sun was hitting our face. It was hitting the plateaus. It was just like magical in there. I mean, there was a feeling, and some people say, when you do the Grand Canyon, there's a feeling that you get that just draws you back, like you're hit with this magic. And I definitely felt that.
I was thinking probably we were moving sort of quickly too, because we were cold from the top, but that didn't last very long, right? Like, I think mentally it lasted longer than physically, because once you get in,
it just kept warming up the further we went down.
I'm like, oh, it's warm.
Yeah,
And then,
yeah.
another 30 minutes, I'm like starting to get hot.
Yeah.
And the sun isn't even completely up yet.
I was going to say lessons I learned on the way down before we get into our crossing and what it was like to go up. Definitely figuring out your shoes and socks and knowing there's that much downhill, go out and get practice on as much downhill for as much time as you can, 2 to 3 hours of downhill, which sounds crazy, but maybe you can get dropped off at the top of a mountain and just go down because you won't really know how your feet are going to handle that. And the worst is getting into a situation like that where you're kind of stuck with the pain. You can't get out of it. There's no one that's going to relieve you from it. And you surely hope that you have everything in your pack to help care for yourself. For us, we had told you in the planning prepping episode before this, what we had put in our packs. And one of those things was for me, a foot care kit. I had everything in there to help me. And now if I would have just taken more time to stop and take care of my feet, then I probably would have been better off. But when I had seen already, wow, I already have a start of a brand new blister starting, I was just like, I'll just wait. But I should have taken care of it right then and spent 10 minutes cleaning and just, puncturing it and getting it taped up. That's what I should have done. And I had brought everything. So it's really important to just practice before you go into the canyon, anything that you can do. The other thing was make sure you're hydrating and fueling yourself. You don't feel like you want to eat or drink when you're kind of so excited about doing it. But I remember through all the training that we've been studying and learning about, it was like every 15 to 20 minutes, make sure you're taking in some calories, from your liquid carb electrolytes, or you're sucking down some just electrolytes or water, and then some fuel, whatever you're fueling with.
And that was probably the other thing that I made a big mistake on, because it's cold or it was coolish in the morning, so you don't feel like drinking. You have gravity on your side, so you're going downhill. So it's work, but it's not the same as climbing type work. And so I ignored really drinking and taking in any fuel till we hit the bottom. I was just like, oh, okay, I'm good. Which it turns out we crossed the Black Bridge there, the wooden bridge, and all of a sudden your stomach is growling. You're like, oh, I'm hungry. So,
and in your normal life, if you're not an athlete and you're not training and you're not familiar with that, it's kind of like getting in your car. You're going to run errands. A couple hours later, you're like, gosh, I'm kind of hungry. I need a snack, or I'm just kind of thirsty. So you've got to drive through to pull through to grab whatever you want. This is different. You have to really plan for it and already be catching it before you have the hunger pains. Already be catching that before it kicks in. So anyway, that's two things that I would.
And then the next mistake. So I had filled my pack up with 2 liters. I had 2 liters of water, and we both did. And
I think mine was honestly, let's get honest. I had it probably a liter and a little over 3/4. I don't think it was exactly at 2 liters. I think it was a little under Dave of 2.
Yeah,
because we were expecting to fill up at the bottom of South Kaibab Trail. We were expecting to fill up there.
Right.
First mistake.
And so we got there because I hadn't been drinking and I had some sips on the bottom, but we got to that first water station. I'm like, I've pretty much got
all the water you need.
All the water I need.
Yeah. And we didn't stop and fill. And there was another person there, and it was like, oh, do we stop? And you're like, no, it's still early. I've got plenty. And I didn't realize how much I've drank. So I was like, okay, that sounds fine. That was the first mistake.
And then I didn't pull out anything to eat because I knew we were going to stop at this beach, which in my imagination, at the bottom of the Bright Angel Trail was only like 10 minutes down the trail. It turned out to be more like 40 minutes down the trail. So I didn't pop any food there. I was just so engrossed with the scenery and what we were doing. And I'm like, well, I've got 2 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I'll just eat those, right? And so, yeah, that's what ended up happening. We got to the bottom of the Bright Angel Trail.
Well, before that, so once we passed that water station, there is a water station, by the way, and they are working on putting another water station and full maybe restrooms down there, right down there at South Kaibab. That's amazing that they're working so hard on that. But there was a water station so first mistake, always fill at that water station no matter what. You don't know what you've have left in your flasks. You don't know how much you've taken out of your hydration bladder. So definitely stop and just fill up no matter what.
Water can be sketchy. So that is a great point. Anytime you see water, it doesn't matter whether you're just a couple ounces down or not.
start filling.
top it off. So I'll never make that mistake again.
So then we walked along. We jogged because we were unfamiliar with the trail down there, through the kind of meandering of the river, to where the sign was that pointed to North Rim and Phantom Ranch, or heading over to Bright Angel, which we would have to cross the next Bright Angel suspension bridge. And we did that. So we said, we're not detouring, even though Phantom Ranch was probably a good maybe 5-10 minutes up the trail. But it was just extra time. We knew that would probably take almost an extra hour, just there and back, checking that out. So we decided, no, let's just stay to our plan and go ahead and cross the metal suspension bridge of Bright Angel. And then it was pretty long run through those next single track trails to get over to the beach that we ended up at.
Right. And again, in my mind, having done the trip virtually, I thought it was just going to be a few minutes. It was, I don't know, half an hour, whatever it was.
At least 30 or 40 minutes, yeah.
But the sun was now beating directly on us.
It was like 100.
And so now I'm starting to suck down water because I'm both thirsty and hungry. And the trail there is pretty deep sand. And that was something else that I guess I knew about, but I hadn't thought that we were going to be trudging through like a desert for 40 minutes, which puts a lot of extra load on you, just moving.
You're more hungry, you're more thirsty, and now you've got the heat element going, and you're looking at the river and it's just gorgeous. And we're trying to figure out what beach to stop at. By the way, where the water fill up is at the bottom of South Kaibab is a beach called Boat Beach, where they actually take the rafters and they stop in where everybody can kind of like refuel there, including the raft guides. So I think that's an additional reason why they're building that brand new restroom / water station. So
yeah, and just the pressure on the canyon. There's
just lots going on. And remember, it's pack it in, pack it out. And if you didn't hear my story from the last episode, I'm also currently challenged with not only the pain in my toes, but I've also started my cycle on this day, and it's been a heavy situation. So I'm getting all of the pains of that, going down the canyon, not feeling like wonderful, with like all of the energy that I have, just a little bit life sucked out of me.
At this point, everybody's just thinking, poor Dave.
Poor Dave. But we continue on, and we get to this incredible beach that has these gigantic reels, 3 big reels of pipe, like huge pipe that they've helicoptered down and set on the side of the beach on the rock.
Because they're fixing all of the water system down there. So yeah. I guess it's a couple of year project. But we stopped at that beach.
Pipe Creek Beach.
You worked on your toes and ate your sandwich. That gave me time to suck down both of my peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and half of the water that was in my pack. Some electrolytes, like I'm feeling good because I know there's a water station just a couple hundred yards up the trail from when we start. So I'll empty my pack. I got to play in the Colorado River, saw some fish, played with some lizards. I mean, it was amazing.
Yeah.
And we got a good at least half hour at that stop.
We did. I would say it was 30 minutes with my toe check and taping and seeing what I could do to fix everything. At the same time, we hit a day on the Colorado River that it was actually pretty clear for the Colorado. So it was very green down there. There's a lot of times that you do the Grand Canyon, if you don't know, that it's very muddy and it's a very brown river. But this on particular day, we were so lucky that it was just really green, blue. It was gorgeous, very clear. It was gorgeous.
So you got your feet fixed. We got reorganized.
And we're just like, hey, we'll get water the next stop. It's not too far up.
Yeah, and we got prepared, and we got through that little canyon. We got to the next stop, and the water station had a pipe coming out with a T at the top. No nozzles and a sign that said
closed.
Closed. So now I'm thinking, okay, well,
oh my gosh.
Where is our next water going to be? It's going to be Havasu Pike Gardens.
Yeah.
And we should hit that in, I was thinking,
an hour
or maybe a little over an hour. Guess what?
It was like 2 hours later.
It was like 2.5 or up to 3.
It was, like 2.5 hours later. And the thing of it is we were, by the way, we're like running and now, and we're struggling. It's really hot. We've both run out of water since sitting at the beach. We've both sucked down everything. And the closer we were getting to Havasupai Gardens, which was, by the way, called Indian Gardens, but they've changed the name. It's Havasupai Gardens. I see it's still named Indian Gardens on maps, but it is Havasupai Gardens. We've confirmed that with the park. But anyway, it's that gardens for that camp station, for that next water station is still so far away. We are both out of water. The only saving grace that we had was we had brought an emergency water flask. And if that we could find a creek that we could fill that up. Now on your way, if you don't know, back up or down Bright Angel, you will see a green valley that runs all the way down into the river. And that green valley is water. There's actually a creek. That's why they called it Indian Creek. They had water that's coming all the way down. So you can see it, but you can't really access this because the water is kind of in these, what would you say, Dave? These big troughs that are way off the trail. There's really not any way you can get to the creek.
Yeah, I mean, you need to scramble. And
we were like, that looked dangerous.
It's just, it is dangerous, right? Because
you could slip and
just a little bit of a twisted ankle and you have a whole different situation for the day getting back up to the top. So as much as we wanted to scramble down and do that, the answer was no. And fortunately, we went for, I don't know, half an hour without water before we crossed a stream, that was crossing the trail.
And that was our saving grace because we had that emergency water flask. We scooped up everything in there and both sucked down some water. And we didn't think, though, to fill up our flasks at the time, which is something we should have done. And another mistake is we should have both been carrying our own emergency water flask, not just bringing one. We should have both had one just to make it more efficient for filling up, what you have with you instead of sharing it. So it just took extra time.
Yeah, and the emergency flask has a filter on it. So you can filter just about anything.
It actually tasted great.
Yeah, it worked out. We rehydrated there. But once you get behind, right, in nutrition and hydration, it's very hard to catch up if you're still moving. So I bonked a little bit there. I started to rely on some gels to give me some energy and a couple of things like that. And we finally made it to Havasupai Gardens and not too busy.
Wasn't too busy. There were people sitting there and filling and just kind of resting. There was some concrete kind of benches that were built there that are set there. We sat down and took turns filling up everything that we had to the brim, all of it. And we can tell you there was a little sign on the pipe that said, "We understand that the water is unacceptable. We are working on it." It's a 2-year project, and we hadn't tasted the water yet. We had just filled all of our flasks up, the hydration pack, everything to the top. We were just filling. We didn't even think to filter that. That was another mistake. We should have filtered that water, but we hadn't tasted it. Once we tasted it, it tasted like toilet water.
It tasted like iron.
It tasted like toilet water. I'm literally like toilet water. Just, oh my gosh.
I've never drank toilet water. So
just the smell
I won't
toilet
vouch
water.
for that, but I will say it didn't matter at that point. It was water.
It was so hard that I was like, how are we supposed to get rehydrated with the taste of this? Now, luckily we had brought also some packets of electrolytes. So that's another great thing to put in your your bag, your running pack, your running vest, your backpack, whatever. Is those little packets. We brought LMTs. It's called LMT, and you just tore the top off. We put it in our flask and shook it up. I mean, those have like 1,000 milligrams of salt in each packet, so it's a fantastic electrolyte. And just having a few of those was great. I mean, but we had only brought one each or something. So, I mean, it was great that we brought one each, but it wasn't enough. I had also brought another flask that had powder in it of carb electrolyte. So I just figured I'd ditch my other flask and just fill this one up. So I had an additional carb electrolyte with me on the flask. But it still tasted not great.
Lesson learned. So there was a sign there at Havasupai Gardens that said it's 4.5 miles to the top of the rim. And the 2 water stations, the one at 3 mile and the one at 1.5 mile, were both closed. And so we're like, all right, let's onboard as much fluid as we can.
Yeah.
And then you start the trip up from Havasupai Gardens. And I can tell you, it is a relentless, nonstop switchback beautiful, but
It was
grueling.
hot.
And it was hot
and,
by then.
and full of sun. And there were things that I wished I had now with me. I had brought my bandana, and I had soaked the bandana, put it around my neck. Did not bring my sun hat. Wish I would have had more sun protection on my neck and body. You didn't bring one. So it was, we had sunscreened. We had, I had arm sleeves. You did not have arm sleeves, did you? Did you have sun
No,
sleeves?
I had a neck gaiter on. I
had
was
a neck
wearing
gaiter.
I was wearing my ball cap, and the only thing I could think as we were going up, because I was stopping, in like some shady spots, I was just like, oh wow, I wish we could get some overcast going today, because I was starting to hurt. Unexpectedly, I just didn't think it was going to be as difficult as it was. So I said,
Fatigue was setting in for both of us.
yeah, fatigue and frustration.
Frustration. And now you're hungry, and now you wish that you would have brought more sandwiches with you because you only had the one or the two that you brought, and the snacks is just not doing it. I remember eating some of the snacks that I brought with me, some power bars. The nutrition was not working at all. Now my stomach was just not feeling good. We already had some heat exhaustion. We're trying to get ourselves out of the heat exhaustion, but how do you do that when it's already so sunny and it's so hot, and you're starting to get fatigued, but yet you're trying to keep your pace going up the canyon, meandering through more people, because the higher you go up, there's just more people that are on the trails. So,
except for the one trail runner that passed us at a high rate of speed.
It was going down?
Yeah, going down. And coming up. Mm-hmm. He had a little entourage with him. So he was somebody in the running community, because it didn't look like his first time. And you're thinking, I wish I could move at that speed.
I did have a hallucination. I had my head down. I was with my poles, and I remember looking over to one of the switchbacks, and I just kind of like glanced quickly up, and it just looked like there definitely was a guy standing there. So that was not a hallucination. There was definitely somebody standing there. But I just never looked at the face. You know how you just like glance, kind of through your sunglasses, maybe under your hat a little bit. You just like recognize there's a human being there. And I remember looking over at him, and to me, he looked like a very dark-skinned Native American with long black hair. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to pass this person. I was like, interesting. And he was just like standing. It looked like he was looking at his phone or something. And I passed him. And a couple minutes later, I heard something like, hey, I noticed your pink KT tape matches your pink poles. And I was like, that just doesn't sound like what I just saw. And I remember looking back just a quick second to see who it was. And I was like, that is not a Native American. It was just another runner, hiker person, I don't know. But I'm like, okay, I'm seeing things now. Okay, let's get it together,
So fortunately, you put in a prayer.
So I did. So if you didn't hear our story, and I think we shared it in the packing prepping episode previously before this, I guess I'll just share it really, really quickly here so you understand what this is. But at the gift shop, we stayed at Maswick Lodge. And if you don't, most people don't know what Maswick is. They just know it's a name. It's just an old name of one of the lodges in the village of the Grand Canyon. Maswick, Maswyk. For those that are visual that need it, like me, I just need to know how it's spelled so I can see it in my brain. We were at a gift shop. There was a Kachina doll. I know Kachina dolls have good and bad references. There was a positive Kachina doll that was in the gift shop at the Maswick Lodge that had a story from the Hopi Nation that talked about the Maswick being a guardian of the canyon, their version of the guardian of the canyon. Whether you believe it or not, it was there. And the beautiful, wonderful cashier human that was just fantastic, looked like an old grandmother, Native American, just very weathered skin. She just looked like she had some deep shaman spirituality, had said to me as had taken a picture so I could remember it. And I should have even pulled it up on my phone, Dave. I'm so sorry. I didn't even think about that. I did take a picture of it because I wanted to remember the story of Guardian of the Canyon. She had said to me, those that are called have an opportunity to call back. And I didn't really understand that. But what she was saying was, if you have a intuition on this Guardian of the Canyon Maswick, you have an opportunity to call on it. And so in the moment, while I was frustrated, thinking through all the experiences that we had the day before, and here we are trying to finish the last, whatever it was, 3 hours out of the canyon or 2 hours out of the canyon. It was very hot. I was trying to get rehydrated. The water was tasting terrible. And I just started saying the name Maswick. And I was like, I'm just going to test this theory, test this little experiment of just calling out Maswick. And I said, if I could have 2 wishes right now from Maswick, I would just ask for the strength to finish this run up the canyon. And 2, man, it would be great to have some cloud cover right now. Just those 2 things would just be rad. And I probably said the Maswick name like 100 times, because what else do you have going on as you're just making that step up after step up? Because all those steps up are that mule train, those stair steps, coming down and up. I mean, you're just constantly stepping up.
And so Wendy's way ahead of me, a good 10 or 15 minutes. And you stopped, and I finally caught up with you. Mm-hmm. And just as I was catching up with you, a little light rain started to fall, and I was like, "This is like
crazy
a dream,
blessing,
right? Like this is a blessing."
For like 20 minutes, we had like a little light rainfall.
Yeah,
it was
not
so
even
wonderful.
It's the type of rain that doesn't even like make a mark on the ground.
No, it doesn't. But it just felt good. It was like a light shower. It was so nice.
And we did get overcast for the last
like 2 hours, maybe
close to 2 hours. Yeah, which I am
extremely grateful for. Yeah, me too. I mean, that was awesome. I mean, now whether you believe it or not, I mean, we did get that. That was pretty special. The other thing, though, it just kind of gives me goosebumps to share that story. But the other thing that was cool when we were coming up, in that last couple of hours, was the incredible mule train that was coming down. And if you don't know, or if you haven't seen a mule train, one of the rules is you need to you honor the mule train, whether they're coming up or down, and get off the trail. So you definitely have to step aside.
They have the absolute right of way, and
they will tell you what to do. So you listen to them 100%.
Yeah.
So just make sure when you see them, it was like, So
yeah, and when you step off the trail, make sure you step off on the mountainside, not on the canyon side.
Right. Yeah.
Because something could go wrong there. So.
Right. Let's be safe.
So we finished it up. I told you, like, it's head down time. Move at your own pace. I'm going to make it. You're going to make it. You made it to the top a good 20 minutes ahead of me. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, let me tell you. Oh my gosh. Okay. So when I was finishing that last hour, and I was just struggling through the women's cycle thing, which was just not working for me. I had brought both options, and I finally ended up in my last option that disappeared from me on the trail. And I'll just let you guys put that together because it's just so embarrassing for me to even talk about and share. I was basically unprotected the last hour. So it was just so embarrassing to even share this story. But not only am I unprotected, I'm at the top, I'm exhausted, I'm waiting for David, and all I could think about is I wanted a coconut water. I was like, man, if I could just have coconut water, and wouldn't it be nice if there was just like a kiosk at the top that was just handing drinks to all the people that were coming out, that they had known that somehow that David and Wendy had done the whole thing, and that we had come out, and they were just gonna high five us, and here's some hydration, here's a lemonade or whatever. But that does not happen.
It doesn't happen. There were people that looked at us very strangely. I thought they might cheer, but they didn't. And they were mostly busy smoking cigarettes, which was a very strange thing to come out of the canyon and find, a mass of tourists staring down the trail, smoking cigarettes, eating Snickers bars. And
oh my gosh. Well,
drinking Coke.
The closer I got to the top, I could definitely smell just cologne and perfume. And you could see the tourists that were kind of just doing a little check-in. They were going to maybe half hour down and then half hour back up. And, you are kind of on a mission as you're running up with your poles, and you're just trying to make it to the top. So you just kind of want to meander through everybody and just make it to the top. But once I got to the top, and I knew, David, you were on your way up, and I was completely out of fluid. I was like, I need to go to get us some drinks. And there's obviously no little cart kiosk thing that's there that I could get a lemonade or coconut water from. And I had remembered from the day before, which is so good to do the day before check-in with, surrounding, yourself with familiarity of where everything is at. I made a beeline to Bright Angel Lodge. And I went inside and was praying and hoping that they had a drink cooler. And I opened, because most of it's just tourist stuff, t-shirts, keychains, sweatshirts, hats, all those sorts of things. And I remember opening the door to Bright Angel gift shop and quickly scanning the store. And I remember looking over to the left, and there was one small refrigerated cooler with 3 drinks in it. It had 3 levels. It was either Powerade, Coke, and water. I grabbed one of each, ran to the cashier. She, was like $8. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm at the airport feeling, but whatever. Took those drinks, didn't even take care of myself, and now I'm shuffling back. And it was probably a good quarter mile from where Bright Angel Trail comes out to Bright Angel Lodge. I mean, so now it's like additional mileage, and my feet are killing me by this time. I had ended up getting another blister on the way up. Forgot to share that with y'all. I got another blister on the way up that was just killing me, and I was just shuffling, literally shuffling, so hot and tired, trying to make sure I could see on the way back. And what a blessing is I looked over, David, and I saw you coming up. And here I am carrying all those 3 drinks. My hands are freezing cold, and I don't care. And I'm just so blessed that you're coming out safe.
I got to the top. It was the best Powerade I've ever had in my life.
We don't even drink Powerade and Coke. We're just like, all right, we're downing this stuff.
Right, but I did that day for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was, I think we gave ourselves high five, but we were a little bit in shock.
Yeah.
I mean, really, literally.
Yeah.
Physically in shock. So
I think there was a moment like we couldn't believe that we had done it, and the pace that we had, the way that we had done it, it was just when you do something for the first time, you're learning the trail, you're learning how it goes, and you're moving through a lot of mental challenges that you had out there, just moving through the feeling of getting over that and continuing on and not giving up, because there was both points that, you didn't even share the story of you just wanting to even give up on your way up. And both of us went through it. I hadn't verbally shared it. You had verbally shared that, hey, I had moments back there that I just wanted to
sit down on a rock and call it a day.
Have the birds pick at me.
I think the worst part was getting to the top and realizing we had to actually walk the third of a mile or the half
back
a mile
to the lodge.
Whatever, back to our room at the
Yeah.
lodge. And I knew your feet were hurting so bad. I was like, I could go get the car. And then you're just looking at this sea of people and buses and weird roads.
like,
and
where
I'm
are you going to park?
Where am I even going to do that?
Yeah.
So let's just keep moving.
Yeah.
And I
kept
think
moving.
that's the story of life. You just have to keep moving.
So we did. We made it back. We made it back to lodge. Yeah. So there's just so many little details we would share with you. And what we plan to do, because this episode has gone on so long, we really want to share with you in next episode all the tips that we have learned that we just have not had a chance to share with you from going and then to doing the podcast. That's what we want to share in the next episode. We probably should wrap this one, but we did want to just get you our experience, what we had done, how it worked, and I'm just getting ourselves back into the lodge room for rest and recovery. That's now it was all about that. And we couldn't rest too long because we knew we were leaving the first thing in the morning, and we had to pack everything to get ready to go to Moab the next day.
Good thing, bad thing, who knows?
Yeah.
But I wish we'd had more time. So let's wrap this because we are running at one of our longer episodes.
Yep.
But I think one of the things that, I took away from that is there were so many decisions to make, and there's always so many decisions to make in life. And it's impossible to know if you're making the right decision at any point in time because you don't actually know what the alternative is, right? So a lot of people sit in that space of indecision, make a decision, move forward on it. Don't worry about the result because what is the alternative? You don't know. Make the best decisions you can. And we did that day and it served us well. And despite the fact that at the end I was a little like, I don't want to do this again. Now I cannot wait to get back down and step over the edge of that canyon
again
with a little bit more knowledge, right?
Yeah.
Because we have some intel now. Personal intel, not the stuff that you get on the internets.
Right. For sure. Absolutely. And the other thing I was just going to say, anytime you embrace a new adventure, you're going to learn something. And there's just things that you're going to learn that's going to go great. And you become a problem solver as you move through the space of the adventure, whatever the adventure is. There's always problem solving and trying to figure it out. And the most is just being prepared, doing what you can. Think of the things that you might not think about that could happen and have a plan. And the thing about the Grand Canyon, what we want to share in the next episode is a lot of people are asking us, are you guys going to bring the Garmin inReach? How are you going to communicate? There was a lot of like what ifs, and then we do want to share those with you, kind of some of the decisions that we made on the gear choices and whatnot. But, again, anytime you're going into an adventure, just plan to be prepared as much as possible to make it the best experience, and, be able to problem solve when things come up, and just never give up. Keep going. I think that's the whole point of us sharing with you these adventures and so many more things about couples working together and relationships and communication, is we just want to keep your embers rising. So that's so important to us, and keep these stories going. So yeah. Do you want to say anything else, Dave? You're looking at me. So
No, I'm good.
All right. So I guess we're just going to say signing off for now. And thank you so much for listening to us. If you'd do us one quick favor, just leave us a comment on this episode. And just let us know how we're doing, what you want to hear us talk about. We are going to be digging into comments, not even in Spotify and Apple where this podcast is found. And also don't forget to hit the notification button so that you can I know a lot of people were talking about, hey, we're not getting notified of when your next episode is. You have to actually click the notification button inside the platform that you're using, whether it's Apple or Spotify, so you can get the next release that's coming out. And then comments that you make out there on our video podcast or audio podcast, feel free. We're going to mention you. We're excited to see you guys out there, so we can make this more of a community effort, not just about David and I, because that's so important. And just keep your embers rising. We believe in you. We love you. And we're excited to hear more about your stories and all the adventures that's ahead of you. That's
all right. Aloha.
All right. Aloha.